All right, let's go ahead and get started. Firstly, thanks all for joining this afternoon. Really appreciate you hopping on. This is the Barcodes webinar, Exploring Mobile Robotics Success Stories, featuring Locus Robotics. All right, perfect. So just going over the agenda for today, we're going to start with some introductions and overview. We're going to dive into some industry challenges based on, we'll introduce him soon, but Manthan's experience in the industry across a breadth and his background in robotics. We're going to talk about the AMR difference. What's specifically the advantage of using AMR versus some other types of technology? And then focus on optimization of your warehouse. So Jason Lum and I, John Wells, are on from Locus Robotics, and we're going to be reviewing some specifics of Locus, as well as additional case studies. So a little bit of background on Manthan. Manthan is currently serving as a product manager for autonomous mobile robots at Barcodes, where he plays a crucial role in coordinating the business plans and go-to-market strategy for robotics initiatives. With a master's degree in robotics from NYU, Manthan brings a wealth of experience spanning over 8 years in various domains, including medical robotics, mobile, program management, product management, engineering, and research. We also have Jason Lum, our Senior Strategic Alliance Manager from Locus Robotics. Jason works with our partners to address logistics challenges facing the world's leading global brands. He's got over 20 years of experience implementing software and hardware solutions within warehouse, distribution, and manufacturing facilities. He's worked at quite a bit of the big players over the years, including Zebra, Apex, Supply Chain Technologies, and Motorola. And then I'm John Wells. I'm a sales rep here at Locus Robotics. I specialize in healthcare, and I'll be going over some of the specific industry challenges for healthcare a little bit later in this. So I'm going to turn it over to Manthan. Thank you all again for joining.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John. So, again, really excited about today's agenda. We have very interesting guests with us, Jason Love and John from Locus Robotics, one of the top AMR manufacturer for P2G, we call it, right? Person to goods solution. So really excited about the partnership and collaboration. And Barcodes is really positioned now as a system integrator and installation partner for Locus Robotics. So more to that and later on, but most of you may know who we already are. And for those who are new to this webinar series, Barcodes Inc. is a system integrator and enterprise technology solution provider for supply chain, manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, and other industries. Barcodes has been around for 25 years in the space and exponentially been growing in last few years in automation space. What we are building is really an ecosystem of industry-leading OEMs like Locus and other partners to provide an end-to-end solution to our enterprise and other customers. So today we are almost serving 70% of all Fortune 500 logos. Categories within Barcodes Group solution portfolio, 800 plus experts in their respective solution categories. And we are an end-to-end multi-technology system integrator, meaning we work with OEMs like Locus really closely. We evaluate requirements for customers. We select multiple right solutions. That's really important from pool of 2,000 plus solutions. And then we design an end-to-end solution with our solution architecture backbone. We deploy it with our software solutions and then really with the team of systems engineers. So we have our presence in the US, Canada, UK, Latin America, and now in Germany through a recent acquisition. Next slide. So we serve our clients in almost all major industries, starting with our top three. Number one, manufacturing. Number two, warehouse distribution and supply chain logistics, hospitality, retail, healthcare, government, and education. So all major industries, we have a really big footprint in automation and other solution categories. Next slide. So if we nail down all the 70 plus product categories from Barcodes Group, We segment them in really 5 major product pillars, we call it. Number 1, enterprise mobility. Number 2, RFID for supply chain visibility. Number 3, automated vision and labeling for RFID. And fifth one that we're talking about today is the robotics automation. Next slide.
Hey, Manthan,
So
can
let's
I add something
actually-
really quick?
Yeah.
This is where we love the barcodes team, and it really becomes a holistic view of the entire operation. They can look at it as, do you guys need a RFID solution? Is it more labeling? What is the design aspect? It's not just robotics, but it's the entire system. And barcodes can look at it as, what is the best fit in order to drive that impact inside the operation. So we're, as Locus, we're delighted to really work with you on these projects. So Manthan, sorry about that to interrupt you. I wanted to throw that one out.
Right. Interestingly, I'm at a customer site today with your team, and we're evaluating a lot of stuff today with robotics and other solutions and how they can work together. So, diving into the actual reasons why we are seeing a lot of demand in automation robotics. Let's just, if you go in details of the data from last few years, number 1 problem right now in the industry is labor shortage. It used to be increased consumer demand during COVID, but the supply chain has shifted gears a little bit. And you see with the data, 2x job openings than the available workforce in the US. 73% warehouses can't find enough workforce, right? So the numbers speak for themselves. Go to next slide. That tells us it's just the second biggest reason we're seeing increased demand for robotics is obviously the e-commerce presence and the growth of e-commerce. Demand is 18% higher in 2022 compared to 2019. What used to be a 7-day delivery is now a 3-day delivery. What used to be 3-day delivery is now a same day or within hours. So we can take our own example. For example, if you were ordering something from Amazon or other elite retailers, right? Given option of next day delivery, the expectation from us as a consumer are really high, and they're getting shorter and shorter on the delivery side. So you're no longer happy with like a 2-day or 3-day delivery. Well, every time a parcel you order from Amazon or any major retailer, it has touched an AMR. It has touched an automation behind the scene, and that's why it's actually possible to make the shipments happening within same day or next day. If you go to next slide, Jason, the third reason we see in the third category is the flexibility to bring in automation and supply chain in general. So a good example I always give is traditional automation, for example, conveyors, right? Again, amazing solution. Can you adopt it? And can it really adopt a increasing demand? Can you easily scale it? So the answer becomes no. Right? Can you scale up or down the conveyor systems? And that's the major plus point we see. We work with Locus on providing robot as a service, wherein you can have, let's say, 15 robots for your peak and 10 robots for your regular operation. Just send the 5 robots back to us, right? So it's been really flexible with a lot of customers that we work with. So if you go to next slide, how AMR solve these challenges, the 3 pillars that you looked at. Take a look at the 3 factors in which AMRs make difference versus your current legacy operations. So let's say if you have 2 associates, 5 associates or 10 associates doing manual material movement, like cart movements or even manual forklift operation, it's very likely, an AMR solution is probably the solution for you, right? Anywhere you see any manual transport being done, that's an AMR-driven solution. You can easily observe an ROI. Number 2, let's say you have fixed infrastructure, you cannot easily scale or adopt to increasing throughput requirements. That's an AMR category. Or finally, why let an associate walk long distances when you can have robots do the non-value added material transport? Whether it is each is cases, totes, or pallets, right? The story is the same. Why to let really important workforce work on something mundane that's traveling or walking or driving for good. If you go to next slide, the way we have been able to achieve the leadership position right now in the AMR space in last couple of years is really our approach is that one-stop shop, wherein we assess the customer requirement. We understand where the highest ROI for our customer is. It probably sometimes is not robotics, and we're upfront about that, right? In some cases, AMRs can drive an excellent ROI, or maybe it's some other type of automation, whether it is RFID and mobility and other enterprise solutions. So really an agnostic design with multi-tech solution design is what we design. And then our investments and focus is really towards rapid deployment and system integration, wherein our focus has been how do we bring these technologies fastest to our customer warehouses or manufacturing facilities. Right? Traditional system integration, you look at that, usually takes about 2 years time to deploy an actual automation. That's not something we are focused on. We're always trying to focus on how do we shrink that timeline and probably bring robotics to our customers within weeks instead of months and years. And then again, rapid integration and deployment, and then obviously the next one is maintain the multi-vendor solutions and fleets so that you can focus on your actual business. Now, if you go to next slide, Jason, a little bit about on our software side, we utilize plug and play integration. That's how we have been able to go to market faster with robots. We do the AMR orchestration and fleet management for our customers. So we manage the entire fleet and look after those fleet that we deploy, because being a nascent technology, AMR, not more than 6 to 10 years since it's been built. Go to next slide. Really excited to announce Barco's been achieved a leadership position in the system integration side in last 1 year itself, and really excited to work with partners like Locus to bring the solutions as fast as we can to the market. Go to next slide, Jason. This is what we do before we even engage with any of the solution design. So AMR OEM selection is really important. I think some of you who joined our last webinar might have heard this, is there are 200 different AMR manufacturers out there. Another 100 system integrators and solution delivery providers. So it's been really difficult for customers to understand what type of AMR can solve their actual needs, because it's really hard to track AMR A, AMR B, C, D, to track to different workflows and what they do the best. Sometimes, there are no case studies. So what we look at is, are there enough case studies and testimonials with AMR manufacturers that we are deploying? Are there exact workflows being utilized in the same industry? Ensure the solution delivers on requirements and business case. We also verify scalability. All of the solutions that we work with, for example, Locus, they are designed to deploy an existing infrastructure, no major infrastructure changes. And Locus is a really good example of that. Determine how flexible it is. And Locus is a number one in that front, wherein you can easily add and subtract robots. So it really gives you a next level of flexibility and ensure the effort and time meets the requirements. You actually see the robots in action, where we can give you some demos and see the robots in action at other customer sites. And integration capabilities is another factor where we do a lot of rigorous checks, and Locus solves that. And ongoing, are there any extra cost, because once you adopt robots, you're pretty much tied into it. So yeah, with Locus, we usually only see the robot cost as a robot as a service, right? And really minimal upfront deployment cost, which is barely minimal. And can the robots be deployed in time? Right, as I said, we deploy these robots in weeks and instead of months and years, and Locus helps us do that. So that's another selection criteria that you should look after, and we also look after. And really, what is the next level of technology platform? Locus has been investing heavily in the next gen of robotics solution, and you can see with their add-on of Max Robot and Vector robots in last 1 year, right? So that's something we always look for in an OEM when we select an AMR OEM. If you go to next slide, Jason, I want to quickly talk about this last slide and give it to you, Jason, and then you can dive into the testimonials and case studies. Why we work really well together is this slide. So we are driving towards a shared mission of enabling our customers with innovative and efficient end-to-end solutions. And this exactly matches, both of our missions really match together, right? On the right-hand side, you see Barcodes with 25 years of experience in the industry, premier solution provider. We consult the robotic process. We design the multi-AMR solution engineering, we design and lead the overall robotic system integration, project management, and actual installation. And then this is totally assisted by Locus's leading AMR front in the AMR industry, right? Locus has been top leading provider for a while now. 13K robots deployed in 17 countries, offering robot as a service model. Real-time KPIs, all data driven. It's not actually robot driven because it's actually the software behind it that's really important. And it's all data driven to match all the KPIs that you have. And it's always software first approach, which lets us put the AMRs faster in the customer side. So without further ado, Jason, take away your magic.
I appreciate it, Manthan. Very much appreciate it, and I appreciate the partnership. I talked to a lot of partners out there, a lot of people out there, and there's very few times that I actually find someone that actually gets it. And Manthan, your team gets it. You guys understand where the impact, how we can help, how we can drive the return on investment. And when we walk into applications that you guys bring us into, Manthan, I pretty much know that we're sitting back at a solid opportunity working with your team. So working with everyone on the Barcode side of it, I'm excited. It's a great time. The other side is I want to throw out there that we are 1 billion. I want to stress that 1 billion since the start of Locus, and we're just shy of 2 billion. And my call out right now, and I know I've got some Locus sites on the call right now, but my call is August 21st at 4 o'clock. We'll hit 2 billion. It took us seven years to get to 2 billion. And we're going to hit that next billion, that 2 billion, in less than a year. And under my numbers, I know I'm calling the numbers, but under my numbers. And I'm really excited where that 3rd billion is going to throw out as, because I do believe that it's going to be early part of next year when we see that 3rd billion. So there's a lot of things going on inside the Locus world, and I'm really excited about the amount of picks that we count. One side note is that I'm going to say this over and over again: we mine data. So when we start looking at your operations and what goes on in historic information, we love to mine data. That's one reason why we know we've got 1.5 or almost 2 billion picks going on.
Jason, real quick, there's a question from the chat. I think it's appropriate to answer now. Someone's asking 2 billion of what?
Of unit picks. So it's 2 billion of unit picks that the Locus bot has been scanned on, put onto our Locus bot, and then put out there. So it's really kind of an exciting time for us to really move forward with it. Again, it kind of proves the point that How can you invest in a new technology? And here's something I saw a little while ago. The McKinsey Group threw out all of the current tech, new tech out there. McKinsey Group threw out there that the AMR world is no longer bleeding edge. We are new tech ready to be deployed. The other side of it is that Dwayne Klappich, senior fellow at Gartner, came up and said, it's not if, it's when you move into AMR technology. So there's some really great things that we drive into the side. The other one is that you see some of our lighthouse accounts, the DHLs, the UPS, the Cardinals, and whatnot. Those accounts that we work with learned from Locus. In the reality, we were a 3PL years ago, and we built a robotic solution for us. So instead of being a roboticist, and if we build it, they will come, we took the other tact. We built a system solutions because we're a bunch of warehouse geeks, designed it for us, and then stated, this thing works and it works well, we should be out there selling it. And that was the birth of Locus. So we were roboticists. Did we use a bunch? Yeah, we did. But we took our knowledge base when it came down to warehouse management, warehouse operations, all of that put together and built a solution. I mean, the 3PL guys out there really know that 2 years from now, do we really know what our customer is going to be doing? I don't think so. Do we really want to put in conveyance, structured products out there when we don't know what's going to happen into the future? And that's not only for 3PLs. Think what happened into the economy of 2020 with COVID, or the changes going on in the world right now. You just don't know what's happening. And the AMR technology that Locus puts out there is really a driving force for flexibility. Again, you're going to hear these words over and over again, so you got to bear with me on some of these things. So we're going to be in good shape. The other side is that Locus is a global company. We sit out there. Of course, we started in the States, honed our edge in the States, and then our customers actually brought us into Europe. So headquarters in Europe, Amsterdam, headquarters in the US, it's Boston, where all the smart fellers are at. The other one is that we're all now walking into the APAC region, but this shows you the confidence, true confidence. Our teams, our customers are looking at Locus because they're no longer seeing it as a, hey, we're going to be putting in one location and putting Locus in. No, we're going into multi-sites because we've earned the right to do business with these companies. The other side of it is as John Wells is an expert in our healthcare side, but we also have a 3PL team. We've got an e-com team. We've got an industrial team. These guys understand, they know how and learn the pain points of our customers. They want to understand the impact of how robotics can really handle operations inside those specialities. Yeah, maybe they want to sell you some stuff, but the overall is they really want to drive the understanding of how we can be impactful inside that warehouse. So there's a lot of things going on when you start thinking of AMR robotics. Think about the confidence levels that our current customers are looking. And then the other one is financial. The robotic space is young. Make sure that whatever you look at, you work with a barcodes company to make sure they've done their due diligence, that you're working with a financially strong company out there, that they have the understanding of what is that next issue in the world. Can that robotics company stay with you? Because this is a long-term commitment, and it's a partnership between our two companies. And actually, it's a partnership between barcodes, Locus, and you, because it really becomes a strategic, mission-critical solution when you start thinking about what we can bring out to the table, what barcodes can bring out to the table, and what you need to be impacted inside the system. So again, you start thinking about what's happening in that marketplace. So Munthan said it, the biggest issue that everyone's seen out there is labor. It's not just labor shortage or labor turnover, but it's also labor retention. How do we make sure that we keep the guys out there? I sat down with a distribution director a little while ago, and she goes, back in 2018, I could sit into a sea of associates out there, possible associates, and they would have to be at least a high school diploma, take the drug test, do all the right things to make sure we have good people out there. Now, in 2023, are they breathing? So we want to see the correct people inside these facilities, because you want to keep longevity in the areas. So a great little numbers. I know my kids hate, goes, quit throwing numbers at us, Dad. But a MHI report came out a little while ago, and it said what keeps managers, supply chain managers up at night, 54% said labor. Again, can I get enough? Am I get quality? Can I keep the ones I want? 54% of it. 45% goes, how do I reduce costs? Everyone's driving costs down. Month and said it well. If I'm sitting back in a situation that I have to get it out to my clients faster, but I've got to beat every internet company out there for product cost, how do I do it better? That's something else that keeps them up. The other one is 51% response time. 51% said, I got to get my products out to my trucks. And then month and said again, well, it is customer service. That two-week time lag for getting stuff out back 5 years ago. My wife is coming back in and she goes, I don't no longer want it in 2 weeks. I want it next day. So I'm actually kind of blaming the entire world of e-commerce SLAs on my wife, because it's really her fault. So when you start thinking how new technology can handle the new changes going on in the world, that's where the AMR side of it really comes to make it work better for operations. What is the impact on it? So there's a lot of things that we drive into the solution, and it's ROI, it's labor, it's SLAs. We mix the entire thing in order to make sure that let's keep the supply chain managers. Let's give them other things to keep them up at night. I don't want to give them the top fears: labor, resources, people, and volatility. Let's move that one on. The other side is the Locus solution. The Locus solution is designed and controlled by one platform, and that's Locus One. Locus One is my software that does the interoperability between WMS, pack-out systems, whatever it might be. Locus One helps drive what tool I'm really going to need. Is it going to be, if I need a hammer, a saw, or screwdriver, the Locus One system will determine what tool do I need for the job. So getting into my verbiage, if I'm doing a high volume picking and I'm doing flat pack apparel, and I'm sitting back and I need to do 10,000 units in a day, I'll be utilizing the Origin One robot, my high volume robot. But at the same time, if I'm doing store replan and I want to ensure that I'm doing case picks, I'll be using a possibility of the Vectors. And the Vectors can handle 600 pounds, a robust robotic solution, from being able to develop carts on it, or actually building shelves on it. So there's a lot of different design aspects we can do with the Vector, or it might be with the Max. And the Max is my pallet mover. It's my 3,000 pound pallet mover. And I was talking to someone the other day, and I used way too many football analogies, but I like to think of as my Origin, as my running back, but my Maxes, they're my linemen. They're out there, they're moving big stuff. So my Locus One software also drives my orchestration layer. How do I work with my picking? How do I go with pack out? What do I do? What about induction? That's all based in the Locus One. So many systems, guys, I've seen is that it is a point-to-point robot. I configured it to go from point A to point B, and that's all it does. does it change the paradigm of operations? That's what the Locus One software does. It changes the paradigm of how do I go to that next level with inside my warehouse. So again, you start thinking about, do I use the right tool? What is the application I'm doing? Is it going to be receiving? Is it going to be a P&D stand and I'm dropping big stuff off? Whatever it is, my Locus One platform is my execution layer. The WMS is my brains, but the Locus One system, that's all. That's my running back, and that's my receivers. They're sitting out there, and those are the guys that are sitting out there, and they're the hands and feet of the system. And the other one is the visibility. I sit back and I look at dashboards all the time, and I almost take them for granted. But we put in actionable insights for the managers, for the associates. How can we drive the amount of information to ensure that the associates know how well they're picking, where their bots are at? There's so much information that we throw out at them. So we put in, and not as big. It's not as big as the circular screen for my beloved Falcons, Atlanta Falcons, but it's big screens inside the warehouse that you sit back and you look at. All right, guys, what is the next order coming down? How are the orders coming down? We give all that information on these large TV screens throughout the warehouse, so your teams can go out there and actually make decisions what's going to go on next and priorities. So we can help plan all that with your crew. And please, if you got any questions, please hit the Q&A. We're going to have like 10 to 15 minutes at the very end to ensure that we answer your questions or get close to it. The other one is that, so this is the design of the Locus system. So when we take your WMS, and this is part of the interoperability between the Locus One and the WMS, orders drop to me. But if I know what it looks like, if I get 5,000 orders, 10,000 orders, I know what my wave is going to look like for that time frame. If I can maximize orders, lines, and missions, I get to play around with what kind of case I'm going to induct, what kind of tote. What's the tote design? I can have a variety of different whatevers out there in order to ensure that I get products back up to the pack out station as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of things that we throw out there to make it work. So all of a sudden then, as I said before, my design, my Locus One comes in and goes, all right, let's look at what tool am I gonna look at? Am I gonna look at the origin, the vector, the max? What is going to be the best product, best tool in order to drive that next pick order? Caseload? Am I going to be doing pallet consolidation? Am I going to be doing pick to pallet for the entire order? Am I going to be doing a discrete pick, an each's pick? Whatever it might be, the goal is always to drive a incredible mission. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road for us. It's really the point of I change that paradigm inside the warehouse. Historically, you've got Bobby Joe who's walking up and down the warehouse, and they're going up and down aisles and they're picking, walking averages between 10 and 15 miles. Munthan said it before. How do we keep and retain workers? What happens with Locus is that I'll keep Bobby Joe, I'll keep Betty Sue, and I'll keep Brenda, all in certain soft zones, and the robots come to them, and all of a sudden, instead of walking that 10 to 15 miles, let's knock that down by 80%. They're not pulling a 200-pound cart around fully loaded. Now they're sitting back and going, all right, I sit back, let the Locus bot do all the unnecessary travel, do all the heavy lifting. All the guys out there are doing is they're picking products, scanning it onto the robot, and ensuring they're picking the right location.
Hey, Jason.
One of the things I'm going to talk about Carhartt at the very end is that Carhartt came back and they said that training was 1 hour. Our CRO, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or bad thing, but my CRO, Al Deacon, stated to me was that if we can train Jason Lum in 30 minutes, we can train most people in 15. So you start thinking about the ease of use on something like this, but the robots go directly to the zone they're supposed to go to. In the reality, if I have 20 units on a bot, 20 different people could actually pick to that robot. One person is not associated to the robot. We don't follow the bot. What we do is that we flood the zone with bots to make it work.
Hey, Jason, we had a quick question from the chat. I think would be appropriate to answer now. What is the maximum weight that the robots can handle?
Great question. If I knew the name, I will send you a gift. But so the Locus robot can handle, the Origin robot can handle 80 pounds. The Vector can handle 600 pounds, and the Max can handle 3,000 pounds. So whoever said that, give me your best, give me your ugliest, and let me move them, guys. All right. So I have the ability to do it. Month and stated, and this is part of the growth of Locus and hearing our customers is that we want to drive new tech, new ideas, new research and development. We're always building new because we're a solid, stable, functioning company with a huge growth rate behind us. So to answer your question, hopefully that works. And I jumped way too far, so bear with me just 1 second. I apologize for that. So the other one is my UI. So the other statement that you're going to hear from Carhartt is that they have a very diverse work team, associate work team. And so when you start thinking about the actual pick process, everyone wears a Bluetooth low energy badge. The thought though is, if I know who's going to pick, if Jason Lum is going to pick and my native language is Chinese, guys, it's not, I can't speak Chinese. I can barely speak Southern, let alone Chinese, but the overall is, if my native language is Chinese, I could actually flip the screen to Chinese. And the thought is, if I can read it my native language, I'm going to pick it faster. I'm not converting it in my head. I can be more accurate in the pick because again, I'm reading in my native language and I can do it faster. So all of a sudden you start thinking about all those things about the pick area. We want to ensure that we can drive return on investment to the best possible way. So you start thinking about the different languages in there. And when you start thinking about my UI, it's on the bot. It's all visual. It's a hands-free process, guys. People pay big money for voice picking because they want hands-free. This is a hands-free process that allows us to go into it. And again, we can talk deeper and wider when it comes down to this, into our UI process. And the last thing that we sit down is that we've got gamification. Gamification is one of those attitudes that if I can say, hey, John Wells, you're picking at 180, but Jay Salome's picking 181, I might be a little competitive in nature, but my goal is that I want to be the best. And we give that ability to be the best out in the field. So we actually have gamification between the workers out there and those dashboards I talked about. We can actually show your managers what the different pickers are doing inside the facilities. So there's a lot of things that we can actually put into the operation to make it more efficient. We're always looking for ways to make it better.
Hey, Jason, also I want to add something. That language UI with 25 different languages. We just came across that as a game changer for one of the customers that I'm talking to right now. I'm sitting in Puerto Rico and everyone speaks Spanish. It's actually mixed Spanish and English. And this was a game changer for a customer, right? They want to have something like this for Spanish speaking and English speaking mixed associates. So, just wanted to put that out there.
See, that's it for me. I got nothing else. I get nothing else in Spanish. I'm sorry. But no, that's awesome. That's a very good point. Now we start getting back into the entire Locus solution. And I know I'm running out of time, guys, but one of the things that we love to look at Locus is back to that interoperability. We tie back into the WMS. Guys, give me a WMS out there that we haven't tied into. We have tied into the majority of them out there. And I'm waiting for someone to stump me yet. Now, and I haven't had that, but let me have that WMS stream, but we are real time back into it. We work with the optimization flow, but then you start thinking about all the different things that Locus One works on. Put away, dashboards, we work with conveyance. We work with mezzanines. I think I get this on every conversation. Do you work with mezzanines? We work with mezzanines, guys. And then with picking, don't think of us as a picking area where I'm doing singles, I'm doing batches, I'm doing discrete picking, I'm doing it all. When you start thinking about how I can actually work with the everything that your operation can throw at me in a picking world, and I can do all this interleave together when you start thinking about how we can put together a total robotics solution. And then pack out. We work very closely with the build the box companies. So if someone's building a box and they want to put in, give me an example is pack size. We can integrate into pack size working with Locus One to help fulfill LPNs on the boxes, pre-printing labels. There's a lot of things we can help drive into that whole integration platform. So when you start thinking about Locus One and putting the entire system together, we do it all. Retail fulfillment, wholesale fulfillment, each is pick. It doesn't matter how we're doing it. We can really become very, very flexible in the operation. I'm moving fast, guys, but then you start thinking about greenfield and brownfield environments. We understand that the majority of the operations out there are brownfield, and companies are going, well, how do I intermix robotics into brownfield? 80% of our operations that we roll into are brownfield. We want to actually increase the efficiency of your current brownfield operations. If you have conveyance, let us use it. If you have design of pallet use or whatever it might be, let us use your current brownfield environment and let's make it better. So we can roll into. On the greenfield side of it, we actually have an entire greenfield design team to help drive better efficiencies. Got a customer right now. We rolled into his brownfield. He opened up 8 new greenfields, and they had us put our input in, and we actually have probably about, I'm going to guess, probably about a 15-20% increase in pick productivity because they let us have a little input on the greenfield. The other side of it is that when you start thinking about structured design, you better have your forecast ready, because when you start thinking about structured design, you start thinking about, all right, if I build too much, I'll never get my return on investment. If I build too little, I'll never make my peaks. So when you start thinking about how I build to a greenfield and go with that structured system, you got to make sure that your forecasting is right. And here's the sad part about it. You're going to forecast 3 years ahead. You're going to be spot on for about a month until all that changes. At least with mobile robotics, AMR robotics, we can actually build and grow with you as your system grows. Munthan said this well, we scale exceptionally well. At peak, at non-peak, I'm running, say, give me an average of 30 robots. But all of a sudden, I jump to peak and I increase my order volume by 50%. Well, instead of having to add on another 50% of people, you call John up and go, hey, John, I need an extra 15, 20 robots. Oh, I'm sorry. You call Munthan up. He said, I need an extra 15, 20 robots. And we roll them in and you ship them back to me in January. That's how we can scale up. But you also got to think about, what about constriction in the marketplace? 2022 was a great example. Business didn't grow. We didn't go into recession, but it didn't grow. So how do you handle that? If you go for that structured system, you're stuck. With AMR technology, with our robots, you have the ability to flex. And Munthan also said, let's roll this out fast. If we can go into learn about your WMS, figure out who that is, we're probably operational between 6 and 8 weeks. And that the only thing stopping us is learning your system. We're going to roll into a quick ROI. Munthan, I'm going quick. And so we are going to go into the return on investment kind of data that we look at. But the other side of it is that we're not a CapEx. We're not asking you for $5-10 million with a 3.5-year payback. What we're asking for is that let's go monthly rate. Let's build a system to how we can be impactful in 2023, not in 2027, but in 2023. How can we be impactful for that operation? And then we'll work with you on overall design, put it all together, look at the volume, but we're a OpEx number, not a CapEx number. And then it's back to ease of integration. I've got 8 open APIs. I work with the WMSs. If you can't guess, I work with a lot of WMSs, and we can really drive that integration. And Munthan has partnerships to help really get into that integration layer. So we can talk about it on the side. So there's a lot of things in there, and we're not asking you to rip things out. We're not asking you to take things out. We're asking, let us work in your current brownfield environment. Guys, my last slide. And this is where we start thinking about how the impact hits. We will review your data, your volumes, how far your guys walk. We look at everything to ensure that when I walk out with my concept of operations and I present it to your team, I want you guys to look at it and go, oh, this is wrong, and this is wrong. And we as a team look at it and look at what iteration we need to be until you guys sign off on it. The overall is that historically, if I can drive a 2x uptick in pick productivity, that's average. I've got a lot of things that's going 2-3x pick productivity. I can usually design a system where you don't have to hire 50% of the pick associates in your warehouse. I will move it from, and in my example here, that current pick productivity is 250 units per hour. I'll probably drive to 525. So there's a lot of increase that we can go into and drive the return on investment. And again, we're back to historically 6 months. Give me 6 months, 6, 8, but give me that time frame to look at. And that is my average time to market when I start looking at and really driving an attitude of, will this be impactful? And you already saw my very first slides that I'm sitting in. Oh my gosh, I've got a lot of customers with 1.9 billion unit picks with close to 13,000 robots deployed. We've earned the right that these concepts are becoming spot on for most of our customers, as long as you let us learn about your operation. All right, John, I'm sorry about this. John's going to go through a healthcare case study. John, I'm going to leave it to you.
Thank you, Jason. And if you all have questions, please feel free to send them in the chat and we'll answer them since there's only 10 minutes left. So if you need to interrupt me, I think there was one question. It looks like quite a few got answered in the chat though that may not have been answered. I think the question is, can Locus or can Epicor Eclipse integrate into Locus? I'm assuming the answer is yes. We've got quite a few customers on Epicor, other older WMSs like AS400s and even homegrowns. So as long as you all can communicate with us via SOAP, REST, sockets, or there's a few other protocols, we can integrate with that solution. So thanks for asking. So healthcare is a unique beast. It's a little bit different from your standard 3PL and or retail. There's just that it's a wide breadth of different verticals as well. So it's animal health, veterinary health, dental supplies, medical supplies, as well as pharmaceutical. They've all got different nuances and use cases unique to them. Some don't require any actual manual scanning, UPC scanning of products at all. Others, like pharmacy, have new federal mandates called DSCSA, which stands for the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, that goes into effect this November. That requires you to track and trace every single unit, case, interpack, whatever it may be, all the way from the manufacturing facilities to when it gets to the customer. So what that means is that for all pharmaceutical customers, whether they're using an RF gun, any other type of automation, they need to make sure at the time of pick in a warehouse or at the time of pack out, they're scanning and validating every single unique serial number, and there's no issues with those or duplicates. The Locus is well positioned there. We can make those validation calls for them. Some other things about healthcare that's a little bit different from other industries is PHI and PII concerns are very high. You know, it's one of the big mandates from healthcare systems or healthcare in general is PHI is treated like gold. Locus never sees, touches, or interacts with any PHI or PII at all. So it's very important to know when you're evaluating a solution that checkbox is covered. Let's go into the next slide, please. So Cardinal Health is a great example of a customer that we've worked with. They've got over 10 sites live now across the US as well as Canada. Their challenges were your standard ones, scalability. As they gain customers because they're a medical 3PL, the real solution is just throwing more people at it, but it's hard to hire those people. It's hard to get anything outside of maybe a core group to be more efficient. And, you know, one disadvantage of just putting bodies on a problem is it doesn't scale in a limited space. So that was a challenge that they had. Just efficiencies. They were looking for ways to increase their productivity, and we were able to get up to 200% increase at their site. And then WMS integration. They have a homegrown WMS as well. It's not something you could buy on the market. So their concerns were, hey, how heavy an impact or a lift is this integration going to be? Luckily, Locus is very lightweight. It's really just a few calls. You're sending us new orders and tasks, and we're sending back what happened. We picked it, we shorted it, we inducted it. Some other call outs for them is why this has been really advantageous is in their space, medical 3PLs, they have other, let's say, competitors who use different types of automation. Locus is extremely flexible. What I mean by that is once a site is up, if they win a new customer pursuit or new business, we can get them new bots to expand their capability or their productivity, basically how many lines they could pick in a day, in a matter of weeks, in 2 to 4 weeks. Whereas if they had a larger solution that required a lot of capital, upfront steel and building, that could take 6 to 9 months. So they're able to, when they win new customers, to pull that revenue forward and start recognize that much more quickly. Also, it's a lot faster to get to ROI with an OpEx, as Jason mentioned earlier, where you're able to get in that 6 to 12, sometimes in the high range of 18, but it's usually extremely quickly if Locus is a great fit. And then the other thing is allows them to be more creative with their capital outlay because they don't have to spend all of their money on capital when they're putting this out there. It allows them to be more strategic. And where do we spend that? Is it a new building? Is it another initiative? Or it's just kind of taking a hammer to everything? This allows them to be a little more strategic as an organization.
You good, John? All right,
Yes,
so
thank you.
I'm going to roll into, and I only got a minute. They're going to give me the hook in a second. So in the retail 3PL space, you start thinking about what's going on there and the huge spikes during COVID. There was 124% increase in orders going through the retail and the 3PL side. How do they manage those spikes? How do they manage that incredible growth quickly? Structured systems, you're talking 9-12 months for implementation. For Locus, we're talking weeks of implementation. So it's an easier fluid way of going to market. One of our customers that we're working with right now is Carhartt is a great example. Carhartt's an end-to-end solution with utilizing Locus robots. So they come back in, they're working with retail, wholesale, store replen. So they do everything out of this warehouse. And they did a 50% growth during peak. And the way they, instead of having to hire all these people, they said, let's bring on some more robots. So there's a lot of things that we can bring to the table when it comes down to what is the growth potential for an operation, and how can we handle all the different movements inside the warehouse. We're even doing VAS for the operation. So a little bit of information is that they went from a 60 to a 70 units per hour per user picker to 180 units per hour for picking. So they had a 2x plus growth inside their pick operation. So there's a lot of great things when how our robots impacted this facility. The other side, in 6 months, they hit 10 million unit picks, which is, hey, let's applaud Carhartt for utilizing the robots well. And training went down to 1 hour, 1 hour for full warehouse training, not only Locus, but for the entire operation. Because if you think about our robots, they're a flag in the sand. When my robots are flashing green, it means it's ready for a pick. All the user has to do, the associate has to do, is walk up to a flashing green, look at the screen, and pick to that robot. So training becomes streamlined in the entire system. So anyway, Munthan, I'm going to give it back to you for questions and answers.
Thanks so much, Jason. It was amazing. I think we've answered pretty much all the questions. There's one question from Todd. After deployment, in your experience, what are some of the hiccups and issues that you have had to deal with in the past? You want to take a stab at this, Jason?
Absolutely. So great question on that. One of the things that we find is that what we usually put into an operation on go live day one for an operation is that doesn't always look like that on day 30. So what happens is that our guys stay there, our guys design and develop, and we will change design operations in order to make it better. So a lot of the issues that we have is just pure training. A lot of the users don't really understand how to work with their bots, so we go through detailed training with these guys. The other one is optimization, is that we'll come back in per quarter, and we will do a revisit on what's going on. How do we make it better? You know, we're out there reviewing operations. The customer, you guys are out there saying, is this a viable product for us still in year 2? Our goal is to ensure that the robots are always maximized every day you use them. Our job is to go out there continuously to help you drive better robot operations. So, you know, getting back to your original questions, I know I made it a little long. Some of it's training, some of it's a warehouse hygiene, making sure that the warehouse has decent floors, clean floors, things of that nature. So that's a little bit of it's more of training than anything else than pure warehouse operation.
Yeah, and Jason, I would just add, there's other minor things like slotting. You may slot a little bit differently with AMRs than you would normally with carts. But we do have, to your point, optimization solution design teams that work with our customers the entire life of their agreement with us to optimize those and increase their productivity.
Awesome.
Munthan, did we get all the questions?
I think we did. I don't think there's anything else. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, John and Jason, for joining us.
We appreciate it. Everyone, thank you very much.
Awesome. If there are any more questions, hit us an email or go to our website. Thank you so much.